Що, хлопці? Good day, dear friends, colleagues, comrades, those who watch us online. We welcome you too in the name of the International Club of Popular Unity and from me personally. I'm reading out. I welcome you at this symbolic event, Analytical Roundtable Defending the Motherland, which is held under unique format with the support of the Belarus and Russia Union State and Popular Unity Club. I express my words of gratitude to the Union State, to Belarus, and personally to Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko for the possibility to organize this roundtable and hold it in the sacred place at the Brest fortress. Special gratitude goes to State Secretary, to the Secretary of Belarus and Russia Union State. Special gratitude to Glaziev Sergei, co-chair, ex-premier of Ukraine, Nikolai Azarov. He will join us by Zoom today on the 22nd of June 2025. We have gathered here to pay tribute to those who were the first to defend our motherland. 84 years ago, the Brest fortress received the first hit by the enemy, becoming a symbol of bravery, steadfastness of the Soviet people, and showing to the Nazi occupant that they attacked a wrong country. Take into account how long the Brest fortress withstood, although the Wehrmacht command regularly reported that the fortress had fallen. It's not just a historic date, it's a date of memory for those who were fallen during the war, united. Uh, united. Today we shall discuss not only lessons of the uh, past, and we shall discuss the questions of defending our countries. We commemorate the 80-year victory anniversary. We are supposed to preserve memories, and to all the experts, guests, spectators have special thanks for me for their attention to the topic, for joining our roundtable. Let us begin. And with due regard to the place where we're here and the date on which our roundtable is held, I suggest that we begin it with a minute of silence. Dear friends, today uh, we have a compact but very important discussion, and I give floor to the State Secretary of the Union State, academician of the Russian Academy of Sciences, co-chairman of the Club of Popular Unity, Sergei Glaziev. You're welcome. Dear friends, colleagues, comrades, I thank all those who gathered here for agreeing to take part in our discussion. We today pay tribute to the heroism of the Brest Fortress defenders and to the entire Soviet people, which withstood during the heaviest and hardest and most dangerous war for the humanity of the 20th century, demolished the enemy and saved the world from self-destruction. Today, it's very significant for us while supporting uh, our memory and commemorating our heroes to make correct conclusions and to analyze the current state of affairs. Today, we are again in the condition of a hybrid war with the same enemy, but which is more differentiated and multiple. Our former allies, which in the past were covert enemies, now they are open enemies united with our traditional enemies. It's important to understand what happens in the war, where at stake is the destiny of the humanity. Nuclear weapons are being played with. How can we win to withstand and again to save the world? This situation is different from World War II because it is a war for the minds, and information cognitive weapons are prevailing in this war. The front lines run through the minds of persons, and it will determine the result of the war. We very well understood it with the example of Ukraine. Our enemies reformatted uh, the consciences of one of the most educated republics of the Soviet Union, which, along with Belarus, suffered the heaviest losses in the Great Patriotic War. Today, due to the efforts exerted by the Western supporters, the Ukrainians have turned into neo-Banderists who, who are destroying their own country, but are also creating threats to the whole Russian world. The second important front is the financial one. The Western countries, which are entrenched with the spirit of capitalism, are accustomed to count money, and their knowledge of financial technology is used against us, against our currency reserves, by blocking payments, by imposing hellish sanctions. And the third front is the military one, where we have to fight. Our boys are fighting today for the destiny of our states, of the whole Russian world, on the fronts in Ukraine. The front is tried to be used as a punitive measure. The military force is used in the Middle East as a punitive instrument to destroy, we may say, of a fallen enemy, which has lost will to resist by failing to win the information war. This is the difference between the two events. On the other hand, we can see many things in common. The same participants who rallied up in the West against us, according to Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko, expressed it in his address. In this sense, we understand it. 500 years of history have failed to teach our Western partners anything. Both the wars were caused by objective reasons. The St. Petersburg Economic Forum was used by Vladimir Putin to describe the situation, where he tried to explain to his colleagues and to the mediator that the things happening in the world are results of objective laws. It's a change of managerial systems, economic systems, and those who were hegemons are trying to avert the changes by using military law, subversion technologies, by planting chaos in the territories which they control. In the past, when capitals were accumulated, Great Britain was heavily engaged in it, which tried to serve its global empire by provoking World War One and World War Two, so as its competitors destroy them, leaving Great Britain as the only hegemon. The British Empire soon collapsed after World War Two because the ruling elite failed to understand the spirit of times, the fact that slavery and colonial past are passing away because they are no longer prospective and promising. The UK, which formerly was a victor, in fact, lost World War II because it lagged behind in its managerial system and could not compete with the Soviet Union and the United States. I wouldn't go deeper into the historic analysis. I would like to underline that the Russian president words have a deep historic truth. Today, the same kind of policy is conducted by the ruling US elites, which try to preserve the US hegemony but at any price, and they act in a similar way. I am not speaking about sanctions, about setting nations against each other, all those English technologies, planting chaos, divide and rule to achieve super profits. And Washington is using the technologies. I would like to pay your attention to what the historic narrative teaches us. There is one lesson we have to look into. In most of the wars, Russia was led by the historic events and laws. We have not initiated the wars. We never lost globally. We have not won either because we suffered huge losses and we could not always preserve the victories achieved at the battlefront. World War One, in which the Russian Empire had 1 year to achieve a new cycle of its development, a new reality. After the revolution in World War II, we won and liberated the European nations. The Soviet Union became a global unit by leading half of the planet. But in 1991, it disintegrated. We could not preserve the victory achieved by our grandfathers. Our great nation disintegrated, and our enemies then say that it was their historic victory. Listen to the European state leaders, US leaders. They say that they were victorious and we were just supporting them. I don't speak about the Napoleonic War when our army brilliantly liberated the whole Europe from dictatorship, created a holy war of emperors, but in the Crimean War, our former allies uh, hit our back with the results well known. In the present war, we see the US strategy. It wasn't a secret, it was described in Brzezinski's books. We thought that it was crazy, but the US elites took them for granted, and we see that Brzezinski's ideas are now implemented. But we see the Pax Americana being disintegrated, the economic system of Pax Americana is disintegrating. US is trying to preserve its hegemony by new strategies, by making impossible out of 40 million Russian people living in Ukraine to reformat into neo-Nazis, especially the young people, convinced and made them kill their own population in Donbass. Stage two, we believed it could not impossible. They divided the European Union from Russia with huge losses for uh, Europe. Of course, those countries which become their marionettes are the main sufferers. Ukraine has lost half of its population. Europe is going to the economic catastrophe with irreversible results. China is rising. When uh, the Western analysts say that they don't understand what is going on, they plan chaos, and the economic hub in China is growing in the bipolar world economy. For us, it's very important to win this struggle so that our strategy conquers and we become part of this new economic hub. Because if we look what ideas and technologies drive the new World Economic Development Center, these are ideas of priority of public interest over private interests. It was our invention, control of money circulation to have investments growing. It's our investment too in the economy and in the ideologies. And soon after disintegration of the Soviet Union, people were thinking what ideas will serve to assemble fragments of the Soviet Union. After the share of proletariat, manual workers, falls under 50%, he said that our common past will become the node around which our nations will get together. You see the slogan of Xi Jinping, with which he addresses the world, common destiny of the humanity. It's our idea, basically. We are bearers of senses, of deep historical narratives. If we don't turn them into a major strategy, we'll again be led, not the leaders. The US leader says that for them the main enemy is China. It's not just a happening, it's a rudiment of Western past elite thinking. Western politology seemingly is a system of thoughts how to destroy Russia 200 years ago, 100 years ago, and today. Students at the universities are taught the same old things.
At the end, I'd like to note that while staying in this land, a lot of blood been spilled to it. It's a sacred land, and looking at the monuments, this like heroes looking at us from the pictures collected in the museum. They've been collected during quite a long period of time, and I'd like to thank the managers of this museum for this hard work of them during many years, allowing us to touch these heroic pages of our history. The defenders of the Brest fortress had their last battle here, and when visiting Brest fortress, participating in the events like yesterday and today in the morning, we have to ask ourselves, how would young people behave in a similar situation, our young generation? Because the main front line of the world hybrid war is the information and cognitive front line. It's the battle for the control of the minds of our people, of the young generation. This is our key priority. Being the Union state, we make our contribution to this work. There is a project of the Union state to reinstate, to reconstruct several objects, facilities of the Brest fortress, to improve them and to make them the basis for the further extension of the museum. So we are also managing public projects like historical, cultural, organizing events, and that demonstrates our heroic past, the pages of the Great Patriotic War, and not only of it. And a week ago, we visited the Patriotic Youth Camp located here. This is all a huge and very important work. So we are going to proceed with our next project, the memorial in the Unchikovskaya field. We're going to visit it soon. And being based on this heroic past, we have to think about the mobilization of our spiritual strengths. So the defenders of the Brest fortress, been fighting only using their motivation. They couldn't hope that they could defeat the enemy, because we asked recently, how long did Poland attempted to defend the country? Only 3 days, just 3 days, much shorter period than the Brest fortress alone. So here in Bonnikovskaya Pole and in Smolensk, this kind of historical places were, owing to the heroism of our ordinary citizens, of our compatriots, the country was saved from the catastrophe of the 1941, and we need this mobilization. So we've mobilized ourselves today and yesterday, and we are going to return to our capital today. So in our northern capital, we had the economic forum recently, and I had vision that our new generation doesn't remember about the new front line, about the heroes fighting in the south and there is no mobilization in the economy. We are not using fully the resources of our industry, of our economy, and in this way we will not be able to defend our country. The Soviet Union was different. It was stronger than the whole Europe. The economy was stronger, although many countries in Europe were cooperating, playing together, and now all the countries of Europe are playing against us, and we are smaller than the Soviet Union. And that's why to defend ourselves, to counteract this neo-Nazist monster, will be very hard, even harder than in 1940s. So we could defend our land only due to mobilization of all the spiritual and physical strengths of our folk. You know, that all people had to work, women, kids, without weekends, days off, vacations, no concerts, shows. Everyone just worked as united team, and we have to think how we can mobilize in the current state of the affairs and mobilize all our resources to win. Hybrid war is now at the new level. Yesterday, the US attacked Iran. So in the Middle East, we have a new war emerging, and this is all related to our safety. We have not so many allies, and we have to rely on ourselves mainly. So we have to learn the lessons of the past that we are recalling today. Before I give the floor to the next speaker, I missed that in the introduction, but now I will say that many of those who came to visit us today are from Moscow and from other cities, and this is the first visit to Brest. And this is really a very significant knowledge experience that we've received during yesterday and this night. And I have only one idea, that the whole Russia has to visit Brest. Everyone in Russia has to visit it at least once to touch this sacred place, this heroic deed. And now I'd like to give the right of moderation to the operator of our roundtable, to Mr. Gigin, the General Director of the National Library of Belarus and the head of the Belarusian association called Knowledge, and also the Deputy of the All Belarusian Assembly of the Republic of Belarus. Thank you for such a powerful introduction. I think this call to mobilization is something we all need. And your definition that the Western ideology is mainly based on the idea of destroying Russia is true. For me, it's a great honor to get together at this table, together with the leading analysts, politicians, to discuss a very relevant topics. This is a very proper place for that, because the Brest Fortress became a symbol of memory. And on the 22nd of June in 2021, our president said that we shouldn't trust to anyone who apologizes we can only trust something that is really done. We shouldn't trust the penitency or repentance. So the division of Wehrmacht attacked Brest Fortress in 1941, and the losses of them were absolutely huge. And for the first time since after that, the Bundeswehr crew is now being deployed in Lithuania quite recently, and the Chancellor Merz, for the first time, made the joint parade beyond the borders of Germany. It was in Vilnius. The previous parade like that was just before the attack of Soviet Union. And these are the facts showing that the words said after 1945 that were void, and this was kind of disinformation and making us disoriented. So, and we can see a lot of examples all over the world now, like the attack of the Iran and etc. But actually, we are all now here in the Brest land, and Brest citizens call the city the first one in Belarus. And this is, first of all, alphabet, this is the second letter, but also this is the place of strength, because we are very close to NATO, to Ukraine. The Brest Fortress is still a place at the intersection of many forces, and now I give the floor to Mr. Kravchuk, the head of the Brest Executive Committee. Good afternoon to all the participants of our today's event. Welcome to the hospitable Belarusian Brest land, the first city or the first region number first of the Republic of Belarus. And on the 22nd of June, we have the traditional round table dedicated to the historical memory. This is a tradition. This is a tragic date, the most tragic in our history. And on this date, the defenders of the Brest Fortress were the first to counteract the Hitler invaders. So, and after that, the 4 long years followed. But from the first days of war, the enemy understood that we are not going to surrender. So it's not only the soldiers, but also peaceful citizens who counteracted. We had 25 partisan teams or brigades acting in the Brest region only. And on the other hand, the fascists, they had a plan on the elimination of the peaceful citizens. Every third Belarusian died in this horrible war. And more than thousands of people were in the concentration camps. 800s of settlements were burned down, and 10% of those were never reconstructed. So we have to respect our monuments, memorial complexes that have been created by our predecessors. So for that, we reconstruct our memorials, and I'll give you just some figures. In the first half of the year, Sergei Ilyich done the reconstruction of 57 monuments, 13 memorials. Also during the 4 years, we've created 56 art pieces. I mean, the monuments dedicated to the Great Patriotic War. Just yesterday, we had solemn opening of the memorial boards dedicated to the soldiers from Kazakhstan, Udmurtia, Moscow, monuments to the border guards of Brest. So on the right, when you enter the fortress, you can see this monument. Also, we've opened a monument to the victims of genocide in Minsk region. So, and I'm really thankful to the Russian colleagues for the support in restoration of the memorials within this Union State project. In 1994, we've done some works on the capital repair and reconstruction of the northern gates. So in the 2025, we are planning to make the capital repair of the Courage Monument and finish the southern western barracks and the gunpowder storage and the capital repair of the Citadel bridge. Also, in 2026, we're going to reconstruct ruins of the 44th Gunmen Brigade, ruins in the northern part of the Citadel and also southern barracks, and also create the new monuments in the so-called northern ruins. So this is our small motherland, and we have to remember all the soldiers who died during the war, and we are really grateful to all who defended the memory of those who defended our faith, our land. So I wish you the efficiency, the fruitful work, and constructive dialogue during our today's meeting. Thank you, Vadim Vasilievich. I think our guests have already appreciated all the great efforts to save and restore the Brest fortress and also the city of Brest itself. It's a beautiful city. Everyone knows that that Belarus in general is very clean and orderly. However, Brest is very much so. And I give the floor to the head of the Brest municipality. So I'd like to welcome all of you here. The 22nd of June has become the symbol of those terrible days of the war and to unite all who is not indifferent to this theme. Currently, in the library of the Union State, we got more and more books and pieces of art that to commemorate this history. Last year, we presented the Bagration Operation Partisans of Belarus books, and this year we see the new book released. For me, it's very important to work with the young people and to explain that in these books we're trying to emotionally touch the souls of the young people. I think the last book was quite effective, and the new book will be equally effective, I guess. And the events that we had this night, I think for us, just people, we remember something that raises emotions in us. So, Sergei Yuryevich mentioned that everyone, each of the young people, but every person who touched the history during studying in school, who learned about the Brest Fortress in school, has to visit the Brest Fortress. And also seeing the reconstruction of the battle cannot leave anyone indifferent. The hybrid war is going on in the world, hybrid war for the minds of our young people. If today we will not understand that, tomorrow we'll have a tragedy. We are losing human values, traditional values, traditional to our Belarusian Russian culture, and we cannot let it happen. Vadim Vasilievich has mentioned several points that we've been discussing in the platform My Beloved Brest. We call it My Beloved Brest not because it's just beautiful words, but because we love our motherland. And today, in this historical, heroic Brest land, we are trying to motivate our young people to commemorate our historical past, heroic past, involving our educational institutions and something like Republican Patriotic Center that we hope will become international and will attract a lot of young minds here, which will share this atmosphere with us. I thank all participants. I thank the Union State for the help in reconstructing the Brest Fortress. Today, this is the symbol of the courage, and we recollect the courage of the soldiers of the Brest Fortress on the 22nd of June 1941, which were the start of the great victory of the Soviet Union. I'd like to sincerely thank once again all the participants of the meeting. So, we are extending our project, and the boards, memorial boards, give us the opportunity to be sure that we are going the right way, we are taking the right paths.
Moreover, that today we have been joined by Kazakhstan and all the Russian regions of the Russian Federation responded to an opportunity to commemorate their nationals at the garrison cemetery near the Brest fortress. I would like to thank you, wish you a good productive work proceedings. It is important to work with young people. Belarus has the Belarusian Republican Youth Union in Belarus, and we have a real leader who is leading our youth in Berdyansk, Donetsk, in Brazil. Alexander Sergeyevich, you have the floor. First Secretary and Member of the Belarusian Parliament, Sergei Lukyanov. Thank you, dear Speaker, dear participant of the round table. As was said by the State Secretary in his speech, today one of the major objectives is an active work among the young people in various areas, in various aspects, which is why the Republic of Belarus, the head of state of our country, Alexander Lukashenko, leads the process of educating the young people using the system of state policies and through our union. And in this respect, I would like to greet participants of our round table defending the fatherland from our youth organization, Komsomol, and from the participants of Expedition 4 Train of Memory, which is now in Brest. Participants of the project now are fully submerged in the historical agenda, which was proposed by Natalia Kachanova and Valentina Matvienko, co-opposite number from the Russian Federation. The Union state has attracted to this work absolutely all the former nations of the Soviet Union. 15 nations participate in the Train of Memory project. The patriotic distance, we covered 15 towns in Russia and in Belarus, demonstrate that there is a major objective unity among the nations and rallying around the tasks that we are facing. I would like to describe a few initiatives which are decisive for us. And these initiatives are implemented jointly by the young people of Russia and Belarus. The patriotic Mecca of our post-Soviet space is the Brest fortress. Not far from here is a unique memory built by the Belarusians and Russian multi-ethnic uh, Soviet nations, Center of Patriotic Education, which was announced as the all national construction site. Recently, Lukashenko said in Moscow that Belarus has preserved the tradition of national construction sites, which is a major element of educating our young people through work, and the young people will defend our achievements in this way. Thanks to the support of the Brest EXCOM, personally to Alexander Parkhomchik, the first detachments which came here for patriotic education from Russia and Belarus, spent 12 days here at the barracks of the former 25th Regiment, which heroically defended the Brest fortress. We maybe lag behind in terms of interactivity at this memorial site, but the spirit behind this place is a major consolidating factor for boys and girls. We participate in building uh, several important sites like nuclear power plants, space centers, transport thoroughfares. The boys have preserved the best Soviet traditions. An important initiative was a movement in the military higher educational institutions led by Alexander Wolfovich visiting military parades in Moscow. It is symbolic in terms of these young people's education. One more thing, important thing, is participating in the Rzhev Battle Forum, where young people participate in excavating battlefield near Rzhev. I've already told to Sergei Yurovich we have a unique project. Of course, young people are now in the information space and gadgets. We use these mechanisms to digitalize memorial sites, not only such big ones as the Brest Fortress, but the smaller ones like battlegrounds of different wars, like Napoleonic War, extermination sites from the Great Patriotic War. We have digitalized over 2,000 facilities. In Sebastopol, we have digitalized battery number 35. We, we prepare for a Nizhny Novgorod forum to be held next year, next week. We propose that you support this initiative in the future. Here, in the western part of our country, about 450 memorial sites were destroyed by the Baltic nations, and our memorial signs will be preserved for the future. And I would like to mention one of the most unique projects which received a prize for spiritual revival. It united six uh, borderline regions and their young people in the Russian Federation and in Belarus. Such initiatives help us to develop youth movement in various places. I would like to read out a poem uh, to finalize my contribution. Konstantin Simonov, Motherland, touching the three big oceans with its towns, cities, it's proud, invincible, but when the last grenade is in your hand, very briefly, we must remember all the big sides, but we also remember the motherland. We saw it in our youth. River, field, sand, beaches, a bridge, the place where I was lucky to be born, and the handful of ground which symbolizes the whole world. The three birch trees, which I remember from my youth, cannot be forgot forever. Thank you, colleagues. We have many events in Brest. Thank you for contributing to our meeting. Thank you very much. In my turn, I give floor to Nikolai Yanovich Azarov. Every time he is attributed a wrong title. He was ex-premier of Ukraine, Prime Minister of Ukraine. The floor goes to you. And please remember about the time limits. Do we have sound? He was the most successful Ukrainian prime minister in the 21st century. I greet you all, dear friends, comrades. Today we have a painful memory day, 22nd of June. I visited the Brest fortress. I remember those sacred places, and I want to say a few words that the day, June 22, was a difficult one, maybe unlucky day, but it marked the destruction of the Barbarossa plan. In September, uh, uh, the Nazis planned to reach in September Archangel. The Brest resistance was one of the first contributions to the disruption of the Barbarossa plan. And and defeating the Russian troops in 1941. It's a tragic date, especially if we look at it from the point of view of personal experiences. I met quite a few persons who were witnesses of that difficult period in our history. And now, when remembering it, the most important uh, item is how to avert such events happening again in the future. And I think it is a centermost topic of popular unity, which is a symbolic name for the club and for the efforts. Popular unity, as understood in any aspect of the word, of the phrase, as unity between the government and the people. Without such a unity, there would have been no victory in the 1940s. Ideological unity, spiritual unity, something we had lost at the end of the Soviet Union's existence. It was a bitter period. It has to be restored. Without a spiritual unity, would have been no victory. I saw how the spiritual unity had been destroyed in Ukraine methodically and systematically, which resulted in the nationalist monster appearing along the borders of Belarus and Russia. Zombie people, not 100% of course, but quite a fair share of the population in Ukraine. Now we understand that can be no ideology without popular unity. Just society is a sine qua non, social unity, and at last the economy, strong economy, strong research, strong science, which helped the Soviet Union to withstand. I'll reiterate what had been said by Sergei Glaziev. The volume of arms production in the Soviet Union exceeded uh, uh, that in the European Union 200 or 300%. We, at the very beginning of the war, we succeeded in evacuating, transporting from the front line about 4,000 factories and plants. Ukraine had evacuated, practically speaking, all of its important industrial enterprises. As well, the World War III is in progress, we can observe that Europe is being militarized. It had been scheduled, huge resources had been allocated, 1 trillion euros per year. It's a lot of money, even if it's not used to the full, say 8 billion uh, per year. Just imagine what Europe will look like after a couple of years if it is armed at this spectacular pace. We should propagate this idea not only internally in Russia and Belarus, where these topics are understood. We should extend, reach out to Asia, America, Europe, raise the topics at any level to defend the topic. I wish you, dear friends, successful proceedings of your round table, and wish you all the best. Thank you, Nikolai Yanovich. Thank you for your kind words. Sorry, I apologize. Nikolai Yanovich was an exemplary timekeeper. The Prime Minister observed the regulations. Now I would like to give floor to Deputy of the State Duma of Russian, Yana Valerievna Lantratova, Chairwoman Committee for Religious Affairs, member of the Popular Unity Club. Please connect us with Yana Valerievna. Does anyone hear me on the other side? You mean you mean the Polish border? No, on the other side of this wall. Please, please knock on the wall. T- Today at the Brest fortress in the morning, June 22, the first shots of the Great Patriotic War were fired. Here, the Soviet soldiers received the first battle. They fought till their very last bullet. The, the Great Patriotic War turned out to be the greatest tragedy for the Soviet Union. We lost 27 million persons. Belarus lost every third citizen of the republic. At the same time, it was one of the greatest victories fought due to our high spirit. The Republic of Belarus is a country example which preserves the memory of the Great Patriotic War, of every fighter, of every burnt village, and our countries are one in it. Our two leaders mentioned it, Putin and Lukashenko, at the forum in Volgograd. Alexander Grigorovich was right to say that the Holy Spirit, holy obligation of everyone to make the memory of this period live forever through ages. When a country loses its historic memory, it loses sovereignty. And today, we face the World War II losers who are, who have started a hybrid war against us, who are trying to destroy us on the battlefield. We remember we remember the old parable, try to educate his children. They try to distort our history. They attack.
And we know that the lie is not something new. We can remember the notes about Moscovia of Genrich von Staden and the notes of Russia of de Custine. And this is the basic concept of the Russian thought. So during the last 3 months, more than $1 billion been spent for the information campaign in our country, and the more budget they have, the more people are tempted by this money and help the Europe to steal our victory. We have hundreds of specialists, like 790 specialists been prepared in US just for this activity. I mean, trained 260 in Europe per year. And do we have some in our countries? Currently, in the Western countries, the national policies are being rewritten, and they have the concept that the totalitarian communistic regimes have to be judged. I mean, they state that the fascism is equal to the great Russian folk. So they judge them in the same way. So the genocide of the Soviet Union folks is now a very acute topic. They are the victims, actually, of the fascists. They are not equal to them. 27 million people died. This is more than all the European countries lost altogether. So this is the international policy on elimination of the folks of the Soviet Union people by the fascist regime. So I think that we have to state the fact of the genocide of the Soviet Union people in the legislation. The West is falsifying our history, trying to convince everyone that the Russia is the enemy, the aggressor, that it has to be destroyed. That's why they prepared the Ukrainian kids to the war against ours. I visited Donbass and I saw the history books used in the schools, and they intentionally raised the intolerance to the Russian culture in Ukrainian boys and girls. A lot of texts written with hatred to Russia, like the books which were teaching to kill Russian people with machine guns, and the Great Patriotic War in these textbooks were replaced with some other definitions. So the West is trying to rewrite our history using the agents who made these historical lectures negating the achievements of the Soviet Union, making fun of the parade of victory. And one of them also compared the pioneer salute with the fascists' greeting, I mean the gesture of the hand. And the main curator of the agent is Great Britain, where they have HMG Russia Unit Group, which have 72 informational campaign centers, and they support the Azov Nazis group. The analysis of work of their work showed that all the agents, being students, received the grants based on the achievement program. So we have to raise the patriotic feeling in our young people, and for the intentional falsification of the history of Russia, we have to set the legal punishment. And during the special military operation, when our heroes continue to fight the neo-Nazism, we have to keep the historical memory, to strengthen it, because our predecessor died defending our land. So we want everyone who joined us by internet taken into account that we are in this location with a lot of security around. There can be some disruptions of the internet, but I think it's okay. Next person is Natulenko Konstantin, the first deputy of the State Duma on the CRS affairs. Konstantin Fedorovich, the floor is yours. He's also joining us by internet online. Okay, well, actually, now the next will be Dmitruk, Mr. Dmitruk, the deputy of the Ukrainian Duma of the Ninth call. Distinguished colleagues, distinguished participants, I'm really glad to meet you. My name is Artem Dmitruk, and I'd like to express my gratitude to the President of the Republic of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, and the Belarusian folk for the hospitality and for the opportunity to organize this roundtable. I'd like to thank the President of Belarus for the constant work he is doing for regaining the peace all over the world. The best what could happen in the negotiation between Russia and Ukraine, it would be the participation of Alexander Lukashenko. And so my gratitude is to the State Secretary of the Union State, Academician Glazev, co-chair of the People's Union, Yarochev and Kazakov, and to all others who are working for achievement of our goal. So for me, it's a great honor to be here today. So I'm joining online, but hope that my message will reach you. So this is land where the blood of our predecessors was spilled, who defended our motherland, trying to save the civilization against the Nazism. And our most tragic, but at the same time most heroic page of our common history was written. Here at this border, our folk for the first time defended the country against the evil. But the evil couldn't win because all our folks joined, all our peoples joined, and in one union defended our land. The 22nd of June is not just a random date, it's just a recollection of how much a nation has to pay without the proper vigilance, without the proper unification, exposing itself to the enemy. Here in the Brest fortress, the defense was organized despite of everything. And I think the union of honor has to be regained. Currently, we have the same situation. Again, brother is fighting the brother, fathers fighting with their children. However, we are the ancestors of those who were fighting here in 1941. A lot of nations, Tatars, Kazakhs, Russians, and many others counteracted the evil. And we have to keep this spiritual union in the name of life, in the name of Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus. This is not some idea from the past, but this is the condition, the only condition which has to be met in order for us to develop and win. Being the representative of the Ukrainian parliament, I am convinced soon I will, with full responsibility and having all the powers delegated to me, I will say that Ukraine is now the part of the brotherhood, strong and powerful, the union of Russia and Ukraine, the union of three brother nations. This is not the theory, this is the necessity. This is not a political project, this is the issue of life and death. And now, today, as never before, it's very important to keep our memory, our faith, our basis, something that makes us strong and united. We need peace in the name of our people, of our future. For that we are working, for that we are fighting, for that the God saves us, saves us, our united, huge nation. Thank you for your attention. Thank you. And now I give the floor to Evgeny Klimakov, the head of the Federal Agency on the Affairs of the CIS of the compatriots living abroad on the international humanitarian cooperation, a member of the Presidium of the international club called People's Union. Do you hear me and see me well? That's good. Thank you, Sergey Yulievich. My greetings to you. And the topic we're discussing today should never, and it will never, be perceived by us as some historical research only. The point is that the memory of the Great Patriotic War and the broader concept memory of the Second World War is one of the key parts, maybe the most important part of our identity and our perception of the outer world that we, together with the brothers Belarusians, are preaching. On the 22nd of June, we see once again how the new conflict is starting, how the US is attacking the Iran. Is it a coincidence? Well, I think that's not just some coincidence. We should think of the significance of our historical past, because actually the war for our neighbors in the West has become not that bad. I mean, they are taking decisions to bomb, to launch missiles, to attack someone. Well, Iran, was it a threat to the US, to the national security of the US? So where is the border between Iran and the US? Is there any border at all? Why should Trump had to cross, to take this decision and to help the Netanyahu in Israel to attack Israel? Iran was ready to negotiate. So our recollection of the war is absent. So they are taking such decisions, and this is an easy decision. This is not what we are doing. We have this memory embedded into us. This is part of our today's history. I mean, we are deeply we have these things deeply integrated into us. So, but we have to defend our values in Ukraine. And the next story, which is important to us, especially within the framework of the club that we are all members of, and the humanitarian policy and national diplomacy. So, do you think we are able to show this peace just by way of these meetings, or can we, or do we have to take some military actions to regain peace? Nikolai Yanovich, who was the head of the government of Ukraine, was saying quite reasonable things, but the Ukraine was the country, the neighbor, direct neighbor of ours, speaking the same language, sharing the same culture with us. In the schools, they learned Pushkin. So was that enough? Were these humanitarian ties enough to regain the friendship and the union with Ukraine? No, it was not enough. There was a very serious evil power and will, as we all know today. It was strengthened by military supplies of armaments. And so I think the humanitarian policy without military and political efforts has no value, has no power, and vice versa. All the military actions are nothing without the education, the cultural exchange, which we are trying to organize. This is two things that are going hand in hand and strengthen each other. So I think our Belarusian brothers do understand that, and our humanitarian cooperation with Belarus and our military cooperation and our union all will be strengthened even more in the future. And that's most important today on the 22nd of June, when on the day when 84 years ago, the Second World War has started, and the Great Patriotic War has started. Thank you, Evgeny Alexandrovich. And now I give the floor to our friend and colleague, Mr. Scott Ritter, former the person serving in reconnaissance, serving in special forces, and also member of the group of the United Nations on the armaments in Iraq. Are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning. At least it's morning my time. Good afternoon your time. Thank you very much for inviting me to this forum. I've been asked to speak briefly on the topic of traditional values and patriotism, and to focus on the ideological basis for mobilizing societies against modern threats. I'll start with some fundamental concepts. True patriotism is derived from the traditional values of a national collective. So, for instance, if you're going to call yourself a Russian patriot or a Belarusian patriot, you define your patriotism on the values of Russia and Belarus. In this manner, when you speak of mobilizing a society when faced with a threat to traditional values, mobilization should be automatic. It's a patriotic duty. You're defending that which you stand for. And the case study of this example is easy to pick through history. The example of the Soviet Union responding to the perfidy of Nazi Germany is one such case study. But what happens because the topic speaks of modern threats, what happens if the threat emanates from inside as opposed to outside? And today we have a case study that's unfortunately drawn from current events. On this, the anniversary of the perfidy of Nazi Germany against the Soviet Union, the assault on the Brest fortress, we have the case of American perfidy against Iran. We have an American president who appealed to traditional American values to get elected, and he's now appealing to the patriotism of the same Americans who elected him to mobilize behind him in support of a war against Iran, a war that violates every principle and value that American patriots, true American patriots, hold dear. So we're faced with a conundrum here in the United States. And I apologize for thrusting this upon you, but this is a very terrible event that has happened. And as an American patriot, I am appalled by the new threat that has emerged to my country from within. We're told that there's a threat from without. We're told there's a threat from Iran that is worthy of military intervention, but this is a manufactured threat. The United States as a nation, as you well know, historically, was behind the creation of the United Nations. And it's the Charter of the United Nations that serves as the foundation of international law for a civilized world to peacefully coexist. The United States, in attacking Iran, has violated the very principles of this charter, namely that war shall only be done in self-defense. There was no logical reason for the United States to attack Iran. Moreover, the United States, together with Russia and other nations, have embraced policies that speak of nuclear non-proliferation. And we are supposed to be working as a collective to prevent the proliferation of nuclear weapons. And yet, in this attack, the United States has shredded every notion of nuclear non-proliferation. The United States, as it currently has been manifested, no longer stands for the values, the traditional values that define American patriotism. So the question is now, how do you mobilize against this modern threat when the mobilization has to take place within your own society? And sadly, that is a question that the American people today must wrestle with. Maybe we can draw upon the example of the Soviet Union, the Soviet citizens who mobilized against Nazi Germany. But the problem is the threat today doesn't come from without, but from within. And I'm going to have to leave it there because it's a very tragic day for me as an American, as my nation has gone to war. But thank you again for allowing me to speak to you. And I I hope the whole world draws strength from the example of the Brest fortress and standing up against perfidy from abroad.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ritter. Thank you for your words. I give floor. Thank you very much once again. We have here at our round table leading experts. Many of us know each other well, and we have met at various places to discuss centermost issues. And one of the most brilliant experts, undoubtedly, is our colleague Alexander Shpakovsky, deputy to the House of Representatives of the Republic of Belarus. Thank you, Vadim Francevich, dear Sergei Yurovich, dear colleagues, roundtable participants, those who are connected to us remotely and whom I see here in person. It's deeply symbolic to hold the defending uh, Fatherland's events on the 22nd of June at the Brest fortress. It's a mournful date. We remember the genocide of the Belarusian people. Attorney General is investigating a case after 80 years into the genocide of the Belarusian people. 81 years after Belarus was liberated, the materials have been published. The materials are available online, but till now, we cannot say that there is a full stop after the case. Today, Andrei Shved said that the losses suffered by the Belarusian people and I suspect by the other ethnicities of the Soviet Unions which were occupied by the Nazis exceed considerably the officially known figures. The Nazis uh, were known to destroy about 9,000 communities, but now over 3,000 more have been added to this list. 288 such communities were exterminated with their residents and never and were never revived. It's about 20 more than we had known before. It will not be correct uh, to say that the Soviet Union leadership had a bad assessment of the situation on the eve of the Great Patriotic War because uh, the feedback they received from intelligence and open sources were controversial, to say the least. Besides, the Nazis actively conducted a disinformation campaign, so it will be wrong to say that Stalin was to be blamed. At the same time, the lessons have to be learned and to assess the current situation correctly. Both Belarus and Russia are at the stage of a negotiation process with the collective West states, in the first place, the USA. The political and diplomatic tools must not be rejected, but we must understand the reality we are in. If we take, for instance, not rhetoric but facts, today the European Union declares the plans to invest into their military about 800 billion euros. Rheinmetall is ready to use 200 and over 200 billion dollars, which is a German company, but in fact it is an international one. It was mentioned here that Germany wants to deploy near in Lithuania near our border uh, an armored and tank brigade. This is an evidence that the, alongside negotiations, there is a preparation for the war. There, some politicians declare that the present Ukraine war is a battlefront, and they are preparing for the future wars. It is very indicative that the German intelligence Bruno Kahl leader said that the war in Ukraine must continue for the next 5 years to provide the European Union the opportunities to prepare for a war to Russia, which means that our Western vis-a-vis opposite numbers are preparing for a war with us. It's a war on the battlefront, an economy war, information cognitive war. What is happening alongside the Belarusian borders? Poland declares its plans to create an army of 330,000 persons. Offensive weapons are purchased, HIMARS, tanks, helicopters, battle planes. Today, Poland spends about 40 billion euros for its military. The Baltic states are not behind Poland very much. Their armies are not dwarfs. It's not the truth today. Lithuania will spend next year 5 to 6% of its GDP for its military. Latvia will follow suit. The military budget of Ukraine during the last uh, couple of years rose tenfold. It was $60 billion. It's about $60 billion now. The Ukrainian top military are striking it rich without conducting military activities, without Western support. Ukraine would have been capable to survive. It is we must correctly assess the situation. It was said that the Israeli attack against Iran happened when Iran was engaged in nuclear deal negotiations with America. The next round was supposed to be held a few days after the strike happened. Iran did not assess correctly the situation, and it led to catastrophic aftermath. Finally, I would like to say that as far as information cognitive process is concerned, we should focus on young people, neural networks, cinema, video. Belarus had a meeting with the cinema and video uh, leading personalities where Lukashenko criticized very sharply the the situation. Films about crime do not lead anywhere. We should handle the situation differently and film good movies. Practice shows that Belarusian and Russian youth do not know a lot about each other. Thank you very much, Alexander Pavlovich, for your report. Unfortunately, we have to remind you about the regulation time limit. Directive number 11 has been signed recently about discipline, and we should abide by discipline, including the time limits. I should read its text. It will come in handy. And we have directive number 12. It's about ideology. But let's start with directive 11. We have MPs. Now I'll give floor for an address to Kazbek Itsayev, first Deputy Chairman of the State Duma for the CIS affairs. Dear Kazbek Yusukovich, do you follow us? I'm glad to welcome the conference members. Please, please correct your volume. We do not hear you. We have gathered here in Brest, in the hero Brest fortress. Today, the most important objective to defend our historic truth, historic narratives, and it is yet another uh, step which is represented by your conference. We had a similar conference in Moscow recently, where about 190 countries were present to support the Russian opposition in its fight against Nazism and fascism. I'm sure we shall achieve a great victory against neo-Nazis. I wish you success. I'm sure that the results of your roundtable will be spectacular. I wish you success. Thank you. Dear colleagues, Yana Lantratova mentioned that she has a collection of Ukrainian manuals, textbooks on history. I have collected a similar collection in Mariupol and Berdiansk. Belarus takes measures to counteract and to hold an initiative in the historical sphere. And the Institute of National History is one of the leading institutions which determines much in our historical policies. I give floor to its director, Vladimir Lakiza. Dear colleagues, 5 minutes is not enough to tell about emotions, about the work we conduct, but the main underlying thesis I'm articulating is that the victory of the Soviet Union in the Great Patriotic War is the basis of fundamental and practical cooperation of the Russian and historic researchers in the area of historic memory. I said in my interview that we serve as engines of opposing history falsification. And this is a red thread which runs through all our historic history textbooks. We we learn, publish books, including the one which we present here. These are objective documentary sources, and the truths should reach out the societies of Belarus and Russia. Let us focus on the fact that the Ukrainian textbooks were written for many years. We failed to do something. We didn't write the articles which would correct the situation. Now we are lagging behind. They will catch up with others. We extract the truths jointly with our NGOs. I would like to quote a few specific examples of cooperation. with the Russian Military Historic Society. If someone took the M1 road, you saw information posters on heroes of the Soviet Union who were born in Belarus from Dubrovno, Russian border, to Brest, Polish border. It's part of a project, part of a major project sponsored by the Russian and Belarusian presidents and others. Speaking about Brest region, all its districts, Brest, Kobrin, Berezovka, Ivatsevich, Zhabinka, have such information posters. It's just the beginning. I would like to say that today we are working actively to erect Rokossovsky's monument in Gomel. It's an example of working on preservation of historic memory. I would like only to say that our historic, the Belarusian Peace Foundation, an NGO, is actively engaged in this work. It organized a meeting of relatives, direct offsprings of people, of the persons which commanded the Western fronts during World War II. We we have experienced unimaginable emotions. We'll listen to children, grandchildren, grand grandchildren of these commanders. By the way, these names, like Bagramyan, will be given to the Belarusian secondary schools. We work to popularize, promote history through dialogue uh, sites to form historical world outlook and to preserve the historic memories. The White Russia party is actively engaged in this project. They erected 45 billboards showing the stages to victory in May 1945. It has been tested in the Academy of Sciences of the Republic of Belarus, and the information will be available to and to wind up. I would like to say that the most important component, one of the most important component of the state policies, is attributing special awards to the Belarusian citizen towns for their steadfastness in World War II. We lost more than 3 million of our citizens, and 42 and 42 and 42 communities, villages, towns, or cities have received such awards. This year, Kobrin, it's a district center near Brest, has received such an award. Thank you. Your contribution was very rich in contents. I would like to add a few words, literally a few words. Such scientific public organizations and history institutes are very important, but don't let us forget that we are very short for time. Normal, honest, truthful operation of their institutions depend on the political course. When You mentioned Ukrainian researchers. They were also good experts in their areas, but they had a different political order to oppose Russia. Why do I say about time shortness? We could create scientific schools, but the extracted knowledge must be proliferated, expanded, shared, because it affects the political course.
Fully agree with you. That's why our commissions, our council, and the government of the Republic of Belarus are working in the same area, moving in the same direction. I would like to thank our Russian colleagues who support us in that. We are the joint cooperation, we are the joint events. And Mr. Chibulyan Alexander and his book that been recently issued dedicated to the victory of the Soviet Union is very significant. So this is to get more followers, more supporters, to prove something which is of great significance to all of us, to the both of our nations. I give the floor to the ex-analyst of the CIA of the USA, Mr. Larry Johnson. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. We have Deputy of the Russian Duma, Mr. Chapov, could not join us so far, so I give the floor. So today we have the leading analytical forces of the Republic of Belarus, and one of the key representatives is the Strategic Research Institute of the Republic of Belarus, and I give the floor to the head of the department for Brest, Mr. Igor Korol. Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues. I'm really glad to greet all the participants of the round table. I really sincerely thank for the invitation sent to the Institute of Strategic Studies to participate in this round table. I'd like to start with what the presentation of our book was finished. A small girl starting in the 9th grade wrote an essay citing and I can really state that in Ukraine the reformatting of the kids' mentality was done. So today we have the battle going on, battle for the minds of young people. The new generation, which was born at the borderline of the 2 centuries, these people are a little different. They would like to do something creative, actively using the digital technologies. We've got a lot of new professions which not require sharing the experience. And that actually led to the loss of the connection between the generations. Our institute at the beginning of this year done a little sociological polling in the Brest region among young people to understand their values, and that was very good that we saw that more than 90% of the working young people and students stated that they were patriots. Unfortunately, among the pupils of the secondary schools, only 70% stated that. 73% of those interviewed stated that patriotism is respect of traditions, 57 as love to the small motherland, to their homeland, and some also see this as a respect to the state symbols and signs. And only 20% state that this is the readiness to protect their motherland. So that means that we have a lot of gaps in our patriotic upbringing. So whatever we do, we were not able to connect with the minds of the young people, and there is a low sensitivity to the collective values and low willingness to serve the motherland. Only 10% of people stated that they would like to serve, especially in the military. And we have a lot to achieve. And Belarus was always protecting the historical values. We have a specialized search crew, and the main task is to commemorate all the heroes and patriots of the Great Patriotic War. We do a lot not to forget even a single hero, even a single person. And today, we are fighting for the future of our compatriots. The Brest Fortress is my small motherland, because I was born in Brest. And we were working here since I was a young guy. So we have campaign like the rose bushes were planted in the Brest Fortress, and we had to take care of our own land. So a lot is being done in Russia. By the Russian society, so-called Russian society. My son started to communicate with people from Donbass, from Lugansk, and I see that he is growing a normal adequate person. And I really wonder, without any special upraising training, he's got that. So we have to organize more communication between our young people, between the young people of Belarus and of the new regions of Russia. This is really extremely important. Only in this way we'll be able to keep the memory of the war and unity of our people during this war, and the memory of our great victory, and to make the real patriots of our young people. So we see that you are a military person, a general. You really kept up to the schedule. And now I give the floor to the representative of the first channel, representative of the People's Union Association, Mr. Shenin. Thank you very much. I'd like to start to thank everyone who participated or attended our today's night events. This was really immense, and the work which is being done in the fortress, everything that happened in the Requiem concert. And I was not even preparing any presentation or speech to this round table. I was really sure that the presence, just my presence, my being in this Brest fortress and this reconstruction, this is by itself, is something that would fill me with some new senses, some new energy, and that really worked. It was interesting to me to watch the young people who were standing near me. I was not even sitting down, I was standing, just watching these people attending these events. And you will say that we have to fight for the minds of the young people. But surprisingly, being in this place shows this historical code, you know. I also noted that they were coming with one look, and during this concert, during these events, they were kind of transformed. So this patriotic code is inside of all the young people. But because of many historical events that you all know, and Sergei also mentioned them, this code is being suppressed, and some forces are continuing to suppress that. Like, for example, in the reconstruction in the Brest fortress today, there is one scene when people are captured and taken away, and part of our people are captured and taken away. I mean, their values, the mental war, symbolically, and how to free them. That's an important question. And it was stated that we have to strengthen our ties, and it's very important to bring here. Yes, it's good that our Russian, Belarusian people coming here, but I would bring from the new regions some new participants. I would take initiative and bring them here at least first time, because very often I go to the front line talking to the local people, and under some conditions this code can be released by itself. This is some practical approach, because I listened to the presentation of the book of Leonid, telling how Mussolini for 10 minutes was thinking for 10 minutes, what is, I'm dying, I say farewell to my motherland. So an Italian guy just couldn't understand what that could mean. And I think we have to grind into our history. This is our front line, but where should we go? Because, and she says that the programs in the West to process our young people, they have dozens of such informational campaigns that they develop. So many specialists they train just to recruit the minds of our people. And what do we do for that? So I'm staying and I'm living in the same reality, in the same world as you. Today we have some negotiations. Tomorrow there is a war instead of negotiations. Trump has shown to us that there are no guarantees in the contemporary world. And the question is whether we have the time to raise the young people would be able to defend the country in the same way as the Brest Fortress fighters. This is important not at the level of some researchers. This is relevant at the level of, I mean, at the level of the international events. Everything is possible today. Everyone can attack everyone. And tomorrow I was talking to a local woman, and she said that oh, we already won in the war. And many people think, well, the war is going on somewhere, maybe we have won. However, we have to state that this special military operation is the continuation of what was going on in the Brest Fortress, and that's very important. And I think here we have to work more, to do more. And we very often put the borderline between what happened there then and what's happening today. But this is not correct, because this is the same thing. Well, actually, a lot is being done. People from the liberated regions, they're coming here. For example, in February, we were at the location of the 3rd Lugansk Army Regiment, 3rd Regiment of Lugansk Army, and we were talking to one person. He said, after the war is finished, I will come to visit Brest. And I think you all know the keeper of Brest Fortress, also the member of the Belarusian Council of the Republic of Belarus, Mr. Karkatadze. Mr. Karkatadze, the floor is yours. I'd like to thank the Union States for these meetings being held here in Brest Fortress, and I've been in Volgograd this year. And I have to say that, please note that Brest Fortress sounds like we all talk about Brest Fortress. Why? Because we all ask ourselves why. And the answer is, well, when we read the recollections of the Brest Fortress, one of our fighters also asked himself in the letter to Mr. Smirnov, and that's how he answered to his. Smirnov answered to him. When fascists attacked ours, I thought, well, how this Germany can attack our great motherland, and why we couldn't surrender to Germans, because we were proud for our land. We wanted to defend it, not just because of some other motivations or some reasons. We need patriots. We have almost no veterans, just a few of them. So currently, one of the first things, one of the fighters in the front line for the mines are the museums. So once we had one museum in the Brest Fortress, now we have 5, 3 of which were created with the support of the Union State in 2019, and the History Museum of the history of the Brest Fortress, several museums dedicated to the defense of several facilities in the Brest Fortress. And when we talk about the texts left on the walls by the defenders, to me is we are dying, but we not put shame on our land and ourselves. And this issue that we shouldn't shame our land. This is something from the great history of the Slavic peoples. This is the really patriotic. How do we create this high patriotism? By upbringing, by development, by the clear state national policy, by upbringing and developing them love to the motherland. So the people have to love themselves. But if they wouldn't think of the motherland just loving themselves, then we will not be living now. We would not exist.
And back in the 1990s, in the early 2000s, our colleagues asked us questions. Why suicide is a patriot's choice? Is it possible that the state is more important than each individual. And our role is to demonstrate that the state, in some cases, is more important than individuality. Our fighters sometimes gave themselves prisoners, but in fact exploded themselves, committed suicide while destroying enemies around them. Nothing has changed. Double standards are prevailing. They can treacherously attack us, but then persuade us that the Russians are fighting against the laws. We demonstrated in our artifacts. We have more than 80,000 Russian rubles to support the Brest fortress to restore it. Today, we spent a lot of time walking around the Brest fortress, and Sergei Glaziev asked me if we need more funding to support it. We have many new historical facts, pictures, and in the future, if we have supports from the Union State, because next year we shall have 85 years of the Brest Fortress defense. If we are supported, we would try and renovate the museum. Family tourism prevails now. We have tourists, family tourists from all over Russia and Belarus visiting us, and as children see their parents' attitude towards the museum, towards the fortress, towards our past, they respect it and adopt. So come over here to be proud for our country. It was a tragedy, but we are proud of our people who overcame Nazism. Please come over here to experience the feeling, because history must be experienced against the present. Our history has answers to the challenges of today. We had last year over 13,000 group sightseeing held here. You'll also learn about the genocide. Thank you for your work. I would like to say a young person spoke here who left us. He mentioned about the interactive practices. I would like to say he interfaces. We are old schoolers, but the digital generation is accustomed to come over, see a QR code, and hear something in their ears. It is a very efficient and effective communication channel. It won't, QR codes will not spoil anything, but it will support the reception of the topic again among the younger generations. It's like black and white cinemas and color cinemas. The museum has many pictures, because photos, because each one of them has its own background history behind it. These museums are attract a lot of admiration. Of course, the classical presentation prevails, but the digital elements should be also intermixed. Thank you for your remark. Balance and counterbalances. I would like to give floor to Lieutenant General, Russian activist, member of the State Duma, and the Popular Unity Club. Once Minister Primakov said that, no, I won't want to comment on Primakov. Thank you, the Belarusian party. I am very satisfied. There were many Russians, but the main thing, we had very many young people with prams, with kids. But yesterday's events showed that young people are attracted by the idea. In Russia, the young people also changed. The Ukrainian war changed many things. Like every village had about 50 their community members going to fight to Ukraine. Some of them died, and all the village is aware of the situation. And the primary education youth channel are not youth organizations, not our event, but the families. What is said by father and mother in their kitchens. When our president says about traditional values, he speaks about the family as a basis for young people's education. Everything else is secondary. It is a must, but it's secondary. Second thing, what Sergei Glazyev said. I was pleased to listen to it. I understand the global problems. The president said last year that I don't want to follow the same way as we had had till 2022. But now we must think hard where to go, how to go, with whom to go. The Russian Federation Constitution is liberal. The whole legal system is liberal. Federal, local government, central government, and simple folks, they don't understand this division into power branches. They must have clear understanding. The Tsar says all the people obey. This is what we need. All the liberals are against constitutional changes. How to change the constitution? Introduce, governed by decree by the State Military Committee, to comply with the realities on the ground. Artyom, you're looking suspiciously at me. The main thing today, what we must do, when we say that the West is preparing for a war and they clearly assess the situation, we must have a clear understanding of their stance. A war is a continued politics. When we say that we take a 3-year budget, first we must take a 5-year plan. The budget should be secondary, and to describe the armed forces development. The changes we need is complete responsibility of each official for its section of obligations. I spoke about SMERSH, about personal responsibility, that country must not have untouchables. Everyone must be equal against the law. This is a precondition and success of our victories. If we succeed, we'll be always victorious. Thank you very much. I complied with my time limit. Comrade General, thank you for your contribution. I'm ready to listen to the next speaker. You were too expressive. Thank you, Lieutenant General. I would like to give floor to our friend from Georgia, Mamuka Tamasiewicz, Nivea, Georgia, Justice for the War, International Popular Unity Club. Thank you, Gamarjoba, dear colleagues, friends. What I saw, unfortunately, the audio quality is poor. I'll try to do something. Which we had in Belarus and in Russia. We don't have, but I hope that in the near future we'll achieve serious goals. June 22 is seen as a day of memory in for the victims of the Great Patriotic War. It's the day of all national memory of the Belarusian nation genocide. 1 in 3 uh, republic's residents died. On the 22nd of June, Nazi Germany attacked the Soviet Union, which was a big motherland for our predecessors, for the Belarusians, Russians, Georgians, and all other nations defended their motherland against the enemy. I would like to pay tribute to all those heroes who defended the Brest fortress, Belarus, their land, their motherland. Like the Russian and Belarusian people, the Georgian nation contributed a lot to the victory. 700 Red Army soldiers were involved. 300,000 perished. 400,000 came back. 220 were awarded orders and medals. Many of the Georgians were awarded the title of Hero of the Soviet Union. We should not forget about Joseph Stalin's contribution to the victory, who was our compatriot. We always know who was our friend and who was our enemy. The Georgians say, who doesn't know history, doesn't know his roots, doesn't know aware of historic allies. Everyone should know history and take into account the lessons of the past. I would like to report that we in Georgia are collecting signatures for a dialogue with Russia. We have collected 60,000 signatures in electronic form and twice as many on paper, on hard copy. Afterwards, we would like to address the Georgian authorities to embark on a direct dialogue with Russia to solve all the issues within 300, within the last 30 years, also in Abkhazia and in Ossetia. Thank you. Thank you, Mamaguta Mazevich. We have even a song about the Georgians' contribution contribution to the victory in Belarus. Zikina sang a song about a Georgian scout being imprisoned by Germans and saved by the Belarusian guerrillas. Shevardnadze's elder brother is also inscribed on our petroglyphs. Today we have gathered experts, news media persons who are influential in the society. Alexander Artamonov is for sure one of them. You have the floor. Dear colleagues, I'll try to be like all other speakers, brief, naturally. It's a sacred place for me. Moreover, I'm personally acquainted with many personalities uh, who are relatives to the Great Patriotic War military commanders. I would like to say the following thing. I am fully aware that this meeting is not a field headquarters meeting, but some topics will be connected to the military. To add to what was said above, I would like to point out to some statutory documents of our potential adversaries. In 1948, the American military said our main objectives are to reduce Russia's strength so it is not more a threat. Reduce the Russian government's influences. 1948. We must continue our work. 54. Bilderberg, Dutch prince. I read out Anglo-Saxons as a race are meant to assimilate some races and to oppose others until the whole humanity is Anglo-Saxon. But first of all, we must exercise control over Russia. Looking into the problem of from the geostrategical positions, we must state that the main and natural enemy of Anglo-Saxons is the Russian nation towards universal hegemony. In 1918, Professor Ivan Blue, political activist,
Um, he showed me the protocol in the English language, which provided for the scenario of creating of three military actions theaters around Russia, one in Zakarpattia, another one in northwest, and it's like this. It was shown to me in the assembly of the Eastern European Alliance, and actually we have really some grounds to think that the history can become the present. It's not just something in the past that was happening once and would never happen. So the conclusions: we have not 32 countries contracting us, but 62 plus 30. And that's why we have to change the mentality of our young people of Russia and Belarus. And all people in the army know that not the weapons, but the man is most dangerous to others, because a man can do anything. Also, we have to extend the military campaigns, I mean the training, the preparation, deployment, but studying the friendly countries' experience, like Iran, like the Al-Quds Brigade of the Guards of the Islam Revolution and Basij Brigade. So, and we have to deepen and extend our partnership with the North Atlantic Alliance, suppressed by it, like, and use the concept of the heroic Spain of 1930s to achieve that. Thank you for such detailed and informative speech. And now I give the floor to the Ukrainian public and politician, a member of the National Union, Mr. Kilinkau. Okay, thank you. I have to tell you that I'm overwhelmed with emotions. This is just a storm of emotions, and I'm really fascinated by what I've seen in this event. And I'm really impressed by the scale, by the ideological grounds and implementation of the concept. 35,000 people participating in such an event. It's very rare that we can see such a large-scale event with 35% young people, elderly people, spending the whole night in a performance like that. Also, it's been already said today that Brest is a clean and beautiful city. That's true. But not only that, I'd like to say that I'm first time in Brest, and I've never seen so many smiling, happy people. I've come to Sovietskaya Street, and we see that these are sincere people with nothing to hide, and this is your biggest value. And regarding our topic, well, we might like or dislike what the West is doing. They've been doing this throughout the whole history, not for the first time in the history. They're trying to attempt that. So, and if they do that and they are successful, of course they will continue to do that again and again. And we have to draw a conclusion. What are we doing wrong? Why they do succeed and we don't? Why? In the fight for the hearts and minds of people, they succeed and we don't. Let's start with the independence of the republics. So the West worked with all the republics since they became independent after the Soviet Union collapse. Sometimes they succeeded, sometimes they were less successful. Let's remember Georgia with the Rose Revolution, Armenia with Mr. Kashmyan and his actions, Ukraine with Granite Revolution, then the Orange Revolution, and then the Decency Revolution. Well, that's all we've seen with our own eyes, and I'd like to state that all these revolutions, especially in Ukraine, but in all the countries as well, were happening at the background of the great economic development. So there were no prerequisites for the people to going out and protesting. So the government thought that it wouldn't happen. The economy is okay. And I tried to remind you that the GDP growth in 2004 during the Orange Revolution was 12.6%. The GDP was growing by 12.6% in Ukraine. So we are now dreaming about 2% now, but they had growth of 12.4%, and they made this Q data. In 2014, around 4.5%, well, less than 12, but the country was growing, the country was working, and the people start protests and make another Q data. So that's not economy that matters. That's something else that we missed. something else was done wrong. And I don't know about the contemporary attitude to that, but the idea that the extended economic ties and deep cooperation, this is the solid basis of the friendship between the nations. I think this is not true. This doesn't work. This is not only that. If we look at the level of cooperation between Russia and Ukraine, it was very deep, very wide. I don't know if that can be broader between any other nations in the world. And still, they decided to make this coup d'etat and understanding all the losses that would follow. Okay, we can draw conclusions from that. Now we are discussing Europe, and well, we had very friendly ties with the European Union, a lot of mutually beneficial projects. They bought gas at low prices. We helped them to build their economy. Now they have so many losses just during the last 3 years of 1,300,000,000,000 US dollars. Did that stop them when they broke their ties with Russia? Well, so always, some people say that economy is most important, that this is dominating, and if there will be economy, everything will follow. No, something else is there. And Mr. Azarov made his presentation. I worked with him during 2 assemblies, and he's the best prime minister. He's a good economist. He earned a lot of money to spend on Ukraine, but we have not only earn money, but also to spend money wisely. When you say that social standard and welfare of people has to be improved, paint houses, provide heating, give more salary, and that is enough. No, that is not enough. My mistake in Ukraine was that the humanitarian module, the humanitarian component was completely abandoned. When the Supreme Rada is gathering and everybody wants to join the Central Committee and nobody wants to go to the Committee for the Sport, for the Science. And also during these Rada gatherings, when we need some economical decision, we have to make compromises with the opposition. And they say, okay, we will vote for your economic laws for these innovations, but give us the committee for the sport, for the culture. And everybody thinks, okay, this committees doesn't matter, culture, sport, what is that? And they kind of conquered the hearts and minds of these people and brought them to Maidan and made the coup d'etat. And when we talk about such events, when we talk about work with the young people, I'd like to mention these committees are the key, where the specialists of the highest qualification have to work, who can influence the mindset of people, not just a deputy who won the elections. Now, we have to understand the importance of this area without committing the mistakes of Ukraine. These are the mistakes which cost too much to the nation. And of all the past events, well, past events are the basis for the future. We have to draw some lessons from all the events, from all the mistakes. Otherwise, we'll make these mistakes again and again. Some people say, no, that will never happen in our country, but that can happen in any country. This happened in Ukraine. I just remind you, in autumn 2013, 65% of the population of the Ukraine considered Russia the brotherland. 65%. After just 1 year, and more than 50% considered Russia to be the enemy. Less than 1 year. Yeah. And the last thing, when we talk about the guilt of this or that nation, well, there is no guilt in the nation. The politicians are to blame. They don't want to take over responsibility. They just want to decide everything, but not being responsible. The folk, the people are guilty. And when somebody says that Well, Ukrainian people are bad because they allowed these nationalists to take power. During the whole period of independence of the Ukraine, two times in Ukraine, the pro-Western politicians took power. Once in 2004 and the second time in 2014. At both times, they came in an unconstitutional way by coup d'etat. First by third tour, and the second time by the military coup d'etat. And do we have to blame the people for that? No, they voted against these politicians and never, in a democratic way, they would never come to power. That's why they went the way of a coup d'etat, because they couldn't do it legally. Because people say, how come that in Ukraine the people went to the Maidan, there were some agreements, Yanukovych was not supported by people, he wouldn't win in the elections in a half a year, in a year. The problem that he would win. If the opposition would have the opportunity to win in a democratic way, they would wait for this year. They knew that the people were not supporting them. They knew that. And that's exactly why they decided to do this coup d'etat. So, from this point of view, I think that the humanitarian issues, working with the young people, not only with young people, but any other category, all other categories of people, not only young people, every category needs its own approach. Thank you. I give the floor to our compatriots. Fortunately, the sound is very low. It's hard to hear. Thank you. Today we heard many times about Iran, and that's understandable. We've been to the concert in the Brest fortress. Heart was pounding when we watched this performance and the singers, and we received the message that at 4 a.m. on the 22nd of June, without declaring the war, the US attacked Iran, the ally of both Russia and Belarus. And that's why we have to talk today about that, and also about how Iranian was prepared to that or not. So understand that we are staying in the same trench. And when I come to Iran, they consider us to be the allies. First, I thought that this counteraction is something connected with the Muslim religious idea, but I understand that in the federal TV we have different audience, Christians, Muslims, and I thought that maybe we shouldn't use this word. But now I'm starting to use it again and again. But in Iran, they said that this is not anything about the religion. Christians, like Muslims, we all counteract the Satanism. And after the start of the special military operation, they said, now we consider you to also be the part of the resistance or our counteraction. So what is the resistance in practical terms? The young people in Iran, they put a lot of efforts into the upbringing the kids. So when the Iranians bombed the Israel, we wouldn't do that if the society wouldn't be brought up in this way. They support it because Israel, their idea was to remove the Mu regime. So, and that's why the Iranians had to stood up against that. And why the Iranians were ready to stand up? Because they work on that and they have patriotic movies. You cannot be a good singer in Iran or successful singer even if you're a good pop singer, if you don't have some patriotic songs, some folk songs, maybe some narrative, there should be at least one track, just at least once, like to look decent. And this is constant work being done in all schools, starting from the first grade. I don't remember these classes. This is they are trained how to live being surrounded by the enemy, and also the games, patriotic games, computer games. I mean, not with American characters, but phenotypic Iranian characters wearing some Iranian traditional clothes, etc. Another thing is that showing to the citizens that ordinary people, common people, can become heroes. Just simple heroes, not a businessman or cosmonaut, not some person with a very specific profession, and also not character of some fantasy of a book. No, this is a teacher, like a janitor, a person who resists within his area of activity, at his small level, in the institution or company where he or she works. So the concept of resistance for the Russia within the framework of what is being discussed, like keeping the memory, resisting fascism and evil. So I cannot tell that in detail in 2 minutes, but my Telegram channel is dedicated to that. I publish a lot of articles opening up the experience, the universal, something that it's ours. Of course, we cannot copy everything that they have in Iran. We have different cultures. We have to choose, select. Well, I would like to add to this topic of culture that sometimes we have very simple solutions. We don't need anything very complex, because if we resist our ideological enemies at the level of like discussions, maybe we will lose because they have more money. For example, if you want to produce a movie in Iran, you have to sign a contract in which it's stated, paragraph 17, a movie, doesn't matter what is the topic of the movie, fantasy, action movie, comedy, in the movie, there should be a positive image of the traditional Chinese family. This is in China, actually. In China. So if this is the spacecraft going to some planet in the other galaxy, still you have to show that the China is good. Doesn't matter how you do this. And also it's prohibited to criticize the Chinese history. You cannot do that. The history of Chinese folk is the history of the Chinese nation, the winner, Chinese family, the winner, and that's it. And if you hide something in the pocket, you will have your hand cut, and that's it. And then they demonstrate the traditional values and they don't criticize. Why, how? Otherwise you will not have gas. It will be cut off. Now we have the video from Mr. Solovyov, the Russian journalist.
I would like to greet you. A very serious, important element. Sorry, I've joined you too late because we've been very busy filming a movie which will be soon shown. We lived while thinking that everything is decided by others. Nazism fell down, it will never raise its hand. We were naive, and we can see wicked, natural evil is developing, which is an offspring of the Western technology ideology, one of the forms of eternal fight between the good and the evil. We defend the good. By defending our fatherland, we defend the good. It is. It shows us our way. We, as a nation, no matter what ethnicity and religion, we are fighting forever the eternal evil, and we hope that the good will be victorious. I wish you success. All the best. Thank you for these very convincing words. Back in 1941, when the Nazis attacked the Soviet Union, there was a country which opposed it, was a rebellion. Then it was Yugoslavia, although divided by the occupants. The heart was in Serbia. In June, anti-Nazi, all-national rebellion began. I would like to give floor to Mrs. Dragana Trivkovic. Thank you very much, dear conference members. First of all, I would like to thank the conference organizers for their invitation to participate, and Popular Union Club for its active position. Challenges are numerous now, like in the middle of last year. Now we are living through continuation of the Great Patriotic War. At least I have such an impression. There was no clash of ideologies, and and things are much more obvious. Looking at the historical dimension, I would say that irrespective of the ideological frameworks, there is a clash between the concepts between the free world and the global dictatorship. I think that the main geopolitical objective for hundreds of years there was Russia, irrespective of other circumstances. The current situation says not matter what kind of Russia it is, Tsarist, Soviet Union, or the Russian Federation, the target is always Russia because Russia offers a different concept for interpersonal and interhuman international relations, which has its history, traditions, culture, and which doesn't fall into the transnational elites global dictatorship philosophy. We are speaking about the world outlooks which separates the nations living in this country and other countries. Changing the borders, social engineering, and conflict creation is what the transnational elites are busy doing. The global West, our adversaries, but the life philosophy and the values will have no borders. Russia is targeted because it is a major state which supports the concepts of freedom and justice, which sets an example for others and spoils the concept of creating a global dictatorship. Let's remember the words of American strategist Zbigniew Brzezinski, who said that communism is over, orthodox is the next target. These words support the fact that the transnational Western elites did not fight communism as ideology, but fought its geopolitical enemy, and that according to the present situation, they are fighting for their adversary through attacking uh, orthodoxy, because Russia is the major Orthodox country, and it supports fighting front against a global dictatorship. We are continuing the great patriotic war, fighting for survival of those who are different in their religion, traditions, culture, from the global dictatorship forces. It is true of Iran, China, Islamic world as a whole, Latin America, Africa, and many other countries. I do believe that Ukraine, Iran, Palestine, Serbia, and Kosovo is one front line, and the politics of unification is a key for treating the wounds inflicted by our geopolitical enemy in the past. The Serbian nation belongs, due to its history and culture, to the same club where Belarus and Russia are fighting for freedom, truth, and justice during the World War II. And I do believe that there must be no doubts, not for a second, that this system of values will come victorious over any forces. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Mrs. Trikovic. Hvala. Hvala. I, I won't greet you in Lithuanian. I invite the next speaker. Labdien in Latvian. I give floor to public activist and blogger Laurinas Ragelskis from Lithuania. You are welcome, Laurinas. No audio, sorry. Hello? Okay, we can hear and see you. Good afternoon, dear friends. In Latvian and Lithuanian, greetings are similar. This day, speaking about the Lithuanian Baltic agenda, I would like to pinpoint the following items. During the whole Soviet period, the Great Patriotic War, as seen by the former Soviet Union and the nations of the former Soviet Union, has not become the Great Patriotic War for the Lithuanian people. The situation is created ever more problems today when rewriting history, when the aggressor, the Nazi Germany, is equalized with the Soviet Union, and even the Soviet Union is depicted as a bigger evil, and the Nazi Germany is described as a lesser evil, which in the Baltic states, in Lithuania, fought against the evil which suppressed our pride, freedom loving Baltic nations. In this aspect lies the main problem. The task to oppose a rewriting of history and to break through the trends creating in Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, because otherwise, with every next generation, ever there will be ever more and more substitution of the mathematical plus and minus signs. And we shall be in a situation when the occupational forces, which are in fact in the Baltic states, a US contingent in Lithuania as well as a German one, they will become, so to say, in reality, protectors, defenders, and will face the task to support their activities. The masses of Lithuanian territory remains the same. To perish in the war against Russia by creating a Baltic front against Russia. And the information space in Lithuania is being prepared for it. Hatred of Russia is heated up, and there is not a single organization in Lithuania to oppose as a structural force. Only individuals are in opposition, public activists, and there is no indignation from the Lithuanian people. In order, but there is a lot of anti-militarist position, and it must be supported in some way at this different period of time when all of the communication channels between Lithuania and Russia are cut off. Only some clandestine, illegal economic ties remain. Uh, we must look for ways how Belarus and Russia can support these trends in Lithuania. Very briefly, I'm through. Ačiū is thank you in Lithuanian. Thank you, Laurinas, for your contribution. In any case, even uh, your speech at this round table is a fact of serious information support, and we all do hope that jointly we'll find also other ways to provide support. Thank you a lot. Goodbye. Thank you very much. I'll try to be very briefly. Artem Shenin has already told us about QR codes. I'm privileged to come to Moscow-based schools and universities to teach history. We have created one universal history textbook for the entire country. It is not perfect, but it is very informative. It beats all the reasonable borders. There is a QR code after every paragraph where a child can open it and review historic materials. It's not by way of advertisement. The books are not products, they are not sold at bookshops. They're distributed free. We have a section, Glory of Our People, people who make our fatherland. Now, for instance, this year, with a grade 10, we discussed the topic of the Great Patriotic War. A terrible fact I want to share with you. Our students believe that one of the achievements in World War II was US assistance, that without US assistance we would have no victory. They can disrupt a lesson, they can inform you where you extract these facts. It's very difficult to be disputed with them. I have my historical education at Moscow's two universities, which are leading in historical sciences. And I teach history every day at the Pushkin High School. When we interact with children, they quote bloggers, YouTubers, we should create a committee to fight such trends. I have bitter feeling when I'm faced by people scarcely educated who in a very accessible way reject ideas which are offered by people well versed in history. Foreign agents. Young people read a lot, have open minds. Do you know whom they read? They don't read Russian based authorities, but they know foreign agents. They watch their programs and they create young people's public opinion. They know immigrants, they know foreign agents, but they do not know personalities like Prokhanov, developers of Russian history books. It would be very great how we find ways to oppose them in the public space. And our children are fond of watching movies which distort our past, like Kolima by Dud. Thank you very much. We shall ask our speakers. We have already e- exhausted the speakers list from those who are here, which is why I would like to suggest it is written in my scenario. Final word should be given to me and Mr. Gigin and to academician Glaziev. Thank you, Alexander. Certainly, we had a very important event. Of course, we could dispute about their influence, impact. In my opinion, they do impact. It is supported by this whole museum director will support me. This is a table. We discussed at many good ideas, publishing projects by the Union State, joint work by Russia and Belarus. Our procurators general were born here, and I am deeply convinced that the ideas which everyone of you spoke out here will be embodied, materialized, because in fact, we have here public opinion leaders. I've seen that every one of you made notes, which means that they will use it in our activities, not popular bloggers with their hair pink, but people who are guided by every one of you. Last Thursday, I had delegation of bloggers, by the way, including some having pink hair, which told me, let's do something in the area of history, but from the right angle. I told them, but you don't look in the right way. My my guys, paint your hair pink, and you'll be in the focus of attention. It is very important that good analytics does work to achieve the truth.
So we need QR codes, new technologies, and some interactive tools. And the most important that we believe what we say and what we do. And here we have a strategic advantage. Well, and I will be very brief and try in a couple of words say what to get my message across. So the Union State of Russia and Belarus is currently in a quite tough time, but this is a creative and effective process in which they connect different types of components, cultural, economic, and I think there are two more components or two more spaces which have to be connected in Russia and Belarus. The first is the space of heroes. A union state cannot exist, cannot have different heroes. So the heroic pantheons of our countries, and each country has its own pantheons of heroes, and the historians are here and they understand that should be rationally analyzed, and the decisions have to be taken based on this analysis. So what will be this pantheon of heroes? And the second space is the space of history, 1000 years history, because when we talk about the Great Patriotic War, we are all from the same trench, from the trenches which are right here in the fortress, and we have much more in the history books, and this history counts not 80 years, not 84 years, not even 200 years. The city of Brest celebrated its 1000 years anniversary recently. So the connection of the historical and cultural spaces is same as the space of the heroes. We have to connect it, maybe without media invited. And if we don't do that, we'll have some problems in our hearts, we'll have some spikes that will hinder us to do something really great. So we shouldn't leave this now back. And I give the floor to the Secretary of the Union State Assembly. And I think this was a very interesting and productive meeting. And I didn't prepare to such a broad, detailed speech. Actually, I've been talking a lot because I'm kind of in the center of the presidium. But Mr. Spiridon Pavlovich, I'm sorry. So there is a mistake on the board. Actually, the name is written wrong, so nobody noticed. That's not right. Okay, so you provoked me to the following conclusion. So that's quite obvious that we, after spending so much money on various economic projects, we lost in the battle for the minds of people. And this is a hybrid war, because it's much more efficient to bring a group of agents or to train a group of agents which can take over the power by any method. And then they do what the master tells them. They obey the master. So this war is different. We don't have to occupy a territory. We have to occupy the minds of some people who will support each other, and then they will all come to power, and there will be no losses to the master, who just manages the whole country, earning the money, and that's it. This is as it was in Iraq, in Ukraine. So what is the conclusion to be drawn? I think that this eternal dilemma of materialism and idealism, so materialists are losing to the ideologists. And that was happening since the Soviet Union collapsed, because the enemy is using the synthesis of materialism and idealism. After the Soviet materialistic past, they put us in even more materialistic state without any ideology. So this is the liberalism, so-called liberalism. Without ideology, ideologies cost money, and liberals, they don't cost money. This is the 19th century of the Russian literature, something like that. However, what the West is doing is also realistic, and this is the power of the money. And here we have to be based on the very well-known thesis. I mean, the words from the well-known movie Brat, or The Brother. What is the power, brother? Asks one of the characters of the movie. And we think this is the truth. And we think that being really sure that truth is on our side, we thought that we don't have to conquer the minds of the Ukrainian youth. We thought we are the same folk, we won together in the war, but the problem is that young people currently, they do not have critic thinking. Their power is artificial lie, like Vysotsky, the sinner, he wrote a song about the lie and the truth. If the lie is very sophisticated, if it looks well, it will defeat the truth, especially if she has the money. And I mean the ideology and tools of mind manipulation using the force by materially, like providing the grants, etc., and by even mobilizing the people to fight in the front line. Because when a person comes to the front line, they get some experience, new experience, and they learn to kill, like Russian people, although they are all Russian. So passing through the front line, Ukrainians think that they're not connected to Russians because they kill each other. That's becoming obvious to them. And here, it's very important to understand that one truth is not working here. When we deal with artificial lie, so our demobilization, like we have no ideology, we have a lot of mass in this area, and inside, I mean, in our mind, we have a lot of gaps, we have a lot of myths in the public conscious. So how do they manipulate the public thinking? First, they create some narrative that something can be said, something cannot. And if you cannot, if you say something wrong, and then you are an enemy. In 2007, Mr. Putin in the München conference said something wrong, and they got excited because the truth is not convenient. And the principle, like enemy, not enemy, works. Like works like a friend of four military systems. And also, it's not popular to criticize somebody, although they do a lot of harm, but he's supported by Washington, and then everything is okay. It's impolite to criticize this politician. So, working with youth, the bloggers who quite efficiently affect the young people, they create trends, fashion, and our honored colleagues would support that. It's difficult to fight the historical truth. historical facts. So everything is not that simple. We need systemic work, like technologies used should be innovative. It's not just the books. Books is not enough. This is, of course, a big achievement and heroic deed of the workers of the Brest Museum, the books published. But we need something else to make the seeds grow into a beautiful garden. So there should be a garden of historical truth grown in the public mindset. And in the forum held recently in Stalingrad, there was a decision taken by the heads of the states to create a committee of parliamentary assembly, the commission, not the committee, but the commission to keep the historical memory. And I think we have to cooperate with this commission. So the young people do that, so we will also manage. Thank you. Hello, Yuri, good afternoon. Yuri, do you hear me? Hello. You've missed my presentation.